Hi folks, in this video we're gonna go through CORS. CORS is a cross-origin resource sharing. Okay, I made a summary of that page here, mozilla.org. Let's go through them one by one, point by point. So firstly, CORS is an HTTP header-based mechanism for a browser to request a server to grant access to its resource to another server with a different origin. Okay, the term origin here means they have the same scheme, domain and port. Okay, that's what it means by having a same origin. Under some conditions, simple requests are not possible. If that is the case, a browser sends a preflighted request first that involves sending an options, it's not a header, options method to the host server to check that the required headers and methods are allowed in the actual request. So the point 2 is talking about preflighted requests, but there are two types: simple request and preflighted request. And basically, in a preflighted request, you need to send a options method before you are permitted to send the actual request. Okay, point 3. So a web application that uses an API such as XML HTTP request or fetch API by default follows same origin policy. Okay, so the same origin policy is the opposite of CORS. Okay, to override this, an app must use the right CORS headers. Okay, that's what CORS is. It's to override the same origin policy. So when preflighted request is necessary, the options request method solicits on behalf of the browser to obtain a response from the server that affirms the requested methods are supported. Okay, after approval, the actual request is set. We're gonna go through an example soon. So it says a simple requests don't trigger a CORS preflight that I just mentioned. So the preflighted request is for you have a custom header or a method that by default is not supported by simple request. Okay, point 6. There are criteria that satisfies a simple request, otherwise a preflighted request is required. Okay, point 7. This is a bare bones simple request. So it's sent from a browser pointed to https foo.example. It's sending a GET request to bar.other/resources/public data. So, okay, and this is the response from the server. It's successful. Status 200. Okay. Yeah. So here in the request, you define the origin header. Origin header is the domain. Sorry, it's the origin that you're asking to get permission from the servers to get access to the resources. Okay, and when the server responds, it has to have access control allow origin header set. In here it's set to wildcard, so we'll accept every origin. Okay, so in the response it returns the resource that you requested by the GET method. Okay, here it's a simple request, so you can set wildcard as the value to the access controller origin header. But as we'll see later, you can't use wildcard in some conditions, especially when you are sending a request with credentials. Credentials, that means it's a cookie authorization cookie or a HTTP authorization. So when you're sending a request with credentials, you can't use wildcard here, but we'll see. Okay, so as you can see, on XML data was retrieved because access control allow origin header was set to wildcard, which means any origin has access granted to the XML data at this is wrong, it has to be HTTPS. Okay, HTTPS bar.other/resources/public data. So we've retrieved the payload from this URL. Now, if the host server wanted to restrict access to the resource to a specified origin, you can specify explicitly. So if in this case, if the origin was different origin, it will be denied access. Okay, only this origin has access. Yeah. So it says here, access control allow origin set to wildcard is invalid for responding to a credential request. Server must specify an origin explicitly in this case. Okay. Point 9. Preflighted request. A request is preflighted if it requires sending a non-safe method or custom headers or certain content type or sending a authorization header. Here's our example. User browse to https foo.example/examples/preflight invocation.html. So it's the user browses this URL, and this page wants to send a post method to https bar.other/resources/post here with payload person names Arun in XML format. So what it does is it's trying to post this XML to the server. Okay. It also sends a custom header xping other and a content type of application/XML. Okay. So if this is successful, the result would be to add a new name called Arun to a back server. Okay. So first exchange is pre-flight request response. While we are doing a pre-flight request response, because as I told you, this request has a well, I think post method is classified as a non-safe method, so that itself triggers the need for pre-flight. But also here, it has a custom header ping other and a content type of XML. So these factors requires a pre-flight request response. Okay. So first we use the options method to ask the server for the following. Will you allow the origin https foo.example to access your resource? Do you accept post method? Do you accept the custom header ping other and content type application/XML? Well, let's go through it. So in the browser, the page is sending the options method, which is a HTTP 1.1 method, and the host is bar.other. So we are sending, well, the server is bar.other. Okay, and who's trying to access the resource is the foo.example. So these two are basically asking the server for permission. Okay, it's asking will you accept the non-safe method post? Will you accept a custom header X ping other and the content type? And the server responds here, yes. Well, sorry, it's also asking, will you accept the origin footer example? And the server responds, yes, we will accept that origin. Yes, we will accept the post method. Yes, we will accept the custom header X ping other. Okay. And as I understand, the very header means if there is a change in accept encoding and origin headers, then recache the payload or something. Your request until reload the, cache the body. Yeah, I guess the response body. Okay, it says a node about access control max age. We have it here. This sets 24 hours after which the pre-flight response expires and requires another. So once you receive a favorable response from the server, this permission will last you 24 hours. Okay, you don't need to send another pre-flight request within 24 hours. Okay. When pre-flight response is satisfactory, that is, yes, your origin is allowed, yes, post method is allowed, yes, xping other custom header is allowed. Okay, if they're all satisfactory, then real request is sent. So this is the real request. So where were we? Here, we're gonna do a post method call, okay, to this location in this host, the server. Okay, so here's the accept encoding header. This is the custom header called xping other that we asked for permission over here and was granted. And yeah, this is referrer, so this is from which place the user requested for the post method. Okay, so this is where the user was browsing, and here it specifies the origin again, and this is the payload. Okay, now the response from server. We have successfully posted the payload to the server. So 200, okay. It's saying yes, we will allow your origin to make the post request, and any response from the server comes here. Okay. Okay, in this web page over here, they mention some issue with allowing redirect after pre-flighted request, but I just made a simple mention here. Okay, so let's have a request with credentials. Okay, so normally with the XHS or fetch invocation, credentials are not sent. You need to set a specific flag. So for XML HTTP request, you have to set this flag to true, with credential to true. Okay. So this is done in the JavaScript that the user is browsing. Okay. In that script, you need to set this flag to true. Okay, so browser must include cookie header, and the server must return access control allow credentials to true. These two must be done. Both have to be done for it to go proceed without trouble. Okay, so the browser must include the cookie header, and the server must set this access control allow credentials to true. Oh yeah. So these two are different, okay? This flag over here is for the script that you're running in the browser. This header over here is a response header from the server, okay? So all this has to be done. So in our example, the browser is requesting a get call. So a simple request is sent because get is a safe method, okay? This means the options call is not sent in a pre-flight request. Actually, you don't require a options. You don't require a pre-flight request because it's only a get call. So a user access this URL on a browser, and the browser sends the following request to server. It's a get method to this domain. Refer is just the way where this request is coming from, so that's what the user was browsing, the page the user was on. Here you specify the origin again, and here you have to specify a cookie here, and as part of the server response, server has to return this, okay, access control log credentials to true, okay. So if that's all set up, then in the response body, set cookie so set cookie header is set, which is exactly what you sent here, okay. So we're nearly done. It says here, well, of course, this is part of the response body. You get whatever you get from the get call over here, down here, okay. So even if the client sends cookie header to the server, if the server does not respond with access control allow credentials to true, browser will be rejected of the request as resource. Okay, so if this is omitted and you're trying to send the cookie to the server, it will be rejected. Well, what's rejected? Whatever you trying to get from the server, okay. User will be rejected of that resource. Okay. So there's a small note about pre-flighted request with credentials, because this is an example of simple request with credentials. Okay. So what if there's a pre-flighted request with credentials? In this page over here, there's not much saying there, but here's what I get it. Of course, options must be sent first. Okay, you remember the option method? Yes, you remember in a pre-flighted request, you first send the options method, right? To ask for permission to the server. Okay. If here again, if access control credentials are set to true, if this is returned as part of pre-flight response, this indicates the actual request can be made using credentials. So this saying access control credentials header has to be there as part of the pre-flight response, not the actual response. Okay, so that tells you something. So lastly, the credentialed request and wildcard. Okay, these are the exceptions. When responding to a credentialed request, A, the server must not respond with access control allow origin set to wildcard. It will cause to ignore cookie header of the request, and the set cookie response header will fail. Okay, browser will block access to the resource with a CORS error in the console. Okay, so if it is a credential request, it's saying that this header has to explicitly mention the origin in full. Okay, if this is set to wildcard, then the cookie stuff will fail. Okay, and because you can't authorize with a cookie, since it failed, then browser will be blocked to the access to the resource. Okay. B. The servers must not respond with access control allow header set to wildcard. And C. The server must not respond with access control allow method set to wildcard. So A, B, C, they are when responding to a credential request. Okay. So those are peculiarities that you need to watch out for. Okay, so I think that's it. I'll just go through examples in this page. Okay. So you see, this is a this is the JavaScript that the browser runs. Okay. You remember you need to set a certain flag in order to use the cookie. It's shown in here. Okay. So yeah, so this is a simple request. So you want retrieve a resource in /doc location, and you want to ask, can I get that to foo.example? You ask the server, and the server responds 200. Okay, yes, anyone can gain access to that resource, including you. Okay, because you use the wildcard. But remember, if this is a credential request, this will fail. Okay, because you use the wildcard. You have to explicitly say, can the HTTPS foo.example gain access to the resource? And I mean, the server needs to respond with the explicit origin mentioned here. Okay, so this is an example of the simple request. Okay, so what to look for is it's a get method. You want to retrieve a resource at this location, and what's important is you have to mention the origin. So asking the server, can this origin gain access to the resource at this location? And the server responds. If it's successful, it responds with 200. Okay, and it's successful because it responds with wildcard as the value of this header. Okay, so any origin is accepted in this case, including full example. Of course, this is returning the payload. Okay, the resource. Okay, so again, this is the JavaScript that the browser runs. Okay, in this case, it's a preflight response because post is a non-safe method. It has a custom header. Okay, and this is the payload. So you're trying to add a new person called Arun in the backend. Okay, which is in this URL. Okay, so here's a diagram. I told you preflighted request requires you to send a options method to the server to ask for permission for certain things. Okay, so here It's asking for can you allow me to do a post on the host server? Can you also allow a custom header for xping other? Okay, and also allow this content type header. Then server responds, okay, yes, I will allow this origin to access my resource. In this case, to add a new entry to the backend. Yes, I will allow the post non-safe method. Yes, I will allow these two headers, including the custom header xping other. And client goes, great. Thank you very much. Now I'll send the real request. The real request, okay, the real post request, okay. So it happily sends the xping other custom header and the content type of XML, and it specifies, can this full example gain access to your backend, okay, which you already allowed here. Yes, it is allowed. Okay, so the 200 OK means the post has been successful. Okay, so that's how it works. So this is a pre-flight response. Sorry, pre-flight request response. So asking the server, okay, can full example gain access to your backend resource? Can you allow the non-safe method post? Will you allow the custom headers? And the server reports, yes, I will allow your origin, full example. Yes, I will allow the non-safe method post. Yes, I will allow the custom headers. Okay. Now the actual request. So the client sends a post request, happily knowing that server has allowed all the things, and it's sending the custom header, whatever use it may be. You'll also specify the origin, okay, and the content type. And if it's successful, the server responds 200 OK, and it says, yes, I've allowed access from this origin, and the Arun has been successfully added to the backend, okay, because it's 200 OK, okay, and this is whatever response that server responds with, okay, the payload. Maybe it will say, yes, Arun has been added to the backend, or something like that. So yeah, this is a section on some problems that older browsers have. If there's a pre-flight request and a redirect happens afterwards, okay, you can read that yourself. Is a request with credentials. So this is the script that the browser is running. Okay. Here is the flag that you need to set to true in order for you to use the cookie. Okay. The with credentials, it has to be set to true. Okay. So given you've set this flag to true, you can now, because this example is simple request, you don't need to send the options method. You just, in this case, send the get request with the cookie page access, okay, equals to 2, and the server responds with, yes, your origin is allowed by the server, and yes, your cookie is allowed too. Okay, access control allow credentials. It just means yes, requests with credentials is allowed. Okay, if you did not set this flag, then this will fail altogether. If the server does not respond with access control allow credentials true, then the client browser will be blocked access to the resource at the server end. Okay, so there's many things that you need to it needs to come together. Okay, so this is what happens in a Credential Exchange. Okay, so you're trying to do a get request to this location, and you say can this origin get access to your resource, and here's the cookie. Okay, and the server says yes, we've returned the resource you requested. Yes, we allowed your origin. Yes, we allow your credentials. Okay, so here's the payload. Okay, so yeah, so this is what I've mentioned already. So I'll just finish with that. Okay, so I just go over it again over here. I've made a summary of it. Credential requests and wildcards. Okay, so when responding to a credential request, access control allow origin must not be set to wildcard. Okay, otherwise it will fail. Okay, it will also these two other headers, access control allow headers and access control allow methods, they must not be set to wildcard also. Okay, thank you very much, and happy hacking. Bye.